just focusing on stage of idea, when we might invest, and it sounds like both those investments were very early stage, but maybe Steve and Cedric can talk about the stage of idea for what you need to see essentially before you get into the investment.
Well, I mean, I think one thing for sure that you'll hear probably amongst all the panel here is that the reason why we're interested in dry eyes because it's a huge unmet medical need. We all know that Restasis does not work for everybody, but yet it's a huge drug. So anything that's a huge market opportunity, potentially billion-dollar drug, is something we all take very seriously. I think as part of a portfolio of drugs in a company that I would look at, that I think would be the right way for us to look at it, which is, I don't know that I would make just a single bet on a dry eye company with a dry eye compound because of the risk involved, even with the huge opportunity. But if it were part of a portfolio of drugs that I could push forward with some other venture folks and some additional capital, I think I'd be interested in that. In terms of stage, I would probably want to invest after it had been in humans. So I'd probably want to invest in something that was post-phase 1 so we knew there was no toxicity associated with the drug. But like I said, I would want to see it as a portfolio of products rather than as a single shot on goal. And that's just, I think, for us in general, that's some of our risk aversion to single product bets.
Cedric, any thoughts?
Sure. I mean, I think that what we're looking for, I think I would basically break down the opportunities in two kinds. There's I would call them the novel targets or novel mechanisms of actions kind of opportunities where if it works, statistically that pharma will probably be there and has a good chance. And therefore, in those kinds of opportunities, we would be willing to go potentially earlier, put enough capital around the opportunity to go all the way to proof of concept, i.e. phase 2. The other kinds of opportunities are those where you have a repurposed compound that has been shown to be effective either because it was used off-label or because there is some kind of reason to believe that it is effective. And in these opportunities, we would view them as, well, I mean, maybe then there is less absolute risk on efficacy. There might be a regulatory efficacy risk, but less clinical risk. But it will be more about, can you get the drug approved? Therefore, you should theoretically invest later, and you will only exit in those cases typically after approval or much later. We would really therefore look at a novel chemical entity or repurposed drug probably somewhat differently.
I was just going to add that in sort of an extension of what Steve said, whenever you have an indication, it's just a difficult indication, it's always a lot more palatable when you can take that same drug and develop it for a much less difficult indication right side by side. So, for example, with our LFA inhibitor, we could, I think, while DME is a difficult indication, I actually don't think it's as difficult as dry eye. It's difficult. It's a 3-year endpoint. The disease itself waxes and wanes. It has its own difficulties, but I don't think it's as difficult as dry eye. And I actually think the LFA target is a great target for DME. So we were excited about that endpoint, and we could look at dry eye at the same time, and so you could sort of hedge your bet, if you will.
You know what? One other thing I was going to say, Dayton, is the issue of exit, which we're in the business of trying to take capital from our limited partners and put it to work and make good investments and get exits. I'm not sure yet, and I think there's a panel after us or later on today where some of the larger pharma players can come up and talk, and we can ask them this question in terms of, at what stage of a dry eye product are they interested in licensing it or acquiring it? Because I don't think there's been a dry eye deal where there's been a company acquired yet that's had a dry eye product. Has there? Am I?
I would say
no.
Well,
So for me, that's the other kind of risk here is the exit is not obvious in terms of the ability to having invested my capital and then have an exit with that, and at what stage would that happen?